Hi, welcome back to CineSum. This series name will be revealed at the end. Please watch till the end. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. In the opening scene, a man named Terenzio rushes into a Brazilian field. He's visibly scarifying and is in a hurry. Most people would suppose he's missing a flight. But the verity cannot be further from that. He asks the help office for any ticket to the west, but finds out the nearest one is 2 hours laterally. Still, he buys the ticket just for the sake of crossing the terminal. At the same field, a notorious influencer Ines is video drooling with a friend in New York when suddenly, she chokes and falls unconscious. Ines is upset, especially since she cannot do anything to help her. Outdoors, people who are watching the television see that the television journalists and live show hosts have passed out in front of the camera. Not just that, but an entire road of people are lying unconscious on the ground. The observers suppose it must be some kind of joke except for Terenzio, who knows what's going on. He says it's time for him to act and rushes to the terminal. When a guard is distracted, Terenzio abductions his gun and asks everyone to get out of his way. He rushes to a flight that's about to take off to Moscow in a many twinkles. Only some passengers have boarded the flight when he gets outside and holds everyone at a gunpoint. The airman is missing, and THECO pilot Matthew does T want to help the terrorist. As they fight for the gun, a pellet hits Matthew's wing and injures him. Outdoors, the passengers fear, and the flight attendant Gabrielle tries to keep them calm. Terenzio comes out of the cockpit, asking if there's an airman on board. A woman named Sylvie gets up, although she's only a retired copter airman. Under Terenzio's order, she and Matthew take off with all other passengers. The avionics are broken because of the pellet, and as a result, no bone from the aeroplane can communicate anyone outdoors. When the aeroplane is airborne, Sylvie and Matthew try their stylish to reason with Terenzio, but the man remains adamant. He says that he's an officer assigned to NATO and knows commodity they do T. Upon being prompted, he reveals the shafts of the sun have come deadly. Starting the coming day, the daylight is going to kill everyone, indeed those who stay indoors. This has formerly started in eastern countries like Japan and Korea, and the aeroplane will be the coming target if the daylight catches up with them. Matthew and Sylvie don't believe him and theorize that he's mentally ill. Terenzio also acknowledges that he might feel like an idiot, but claims that he's not. Matthew's hand is bleeding profoundly, which might beget a problem in the long run. One of the passengers, named Laura, is a home health nanny for an old man with madness. She's the only medical professional on board, so she takes the responsibility to help the airmen. They've no sewing tackle to close the crack, so they use a hot cutter. Matthew screams in pain, and the passengers fear indeed more. Matthew knows that if they start to protest, everyone's life will be in peril. Hence, he tells them that they will land at a different position as per Terenzio's want, before continuing their way to the original destination. Matthew hopes that the fighter spurts are coming to deliver them, since they were taken at gunpoint. But for some reason, Sylvie feels like they're on their own. A passenger named Ayaz has heard them talk about the sun, and is suspicious that the airman is lying to them. Suddenly, an Arab passenger starts coughing and falls unconscious. Ayaz pretends to be helping him and abductions Terenzio's gun in the process. Terenzio is locked inside the restroom at Ayaz's order, and Matthew is asked to tell the verity. The airman discloses they're landing in Iceland because Terenzio wanted to go nearly west. There, the police there will arrest the terrorist, and the others will be let free. He also tells them about the sun and how Terenzio thinks it'll kill people. This sends the passengers into a delirium. They start recalling strange effects that happened before they boarded the flight, and are upset about their family. Matthew calms everyone and takes the responsibility to save them all as the captain. A while laterally, he tries to land in an field in Iceland, but gets no signal from business control. When they can see the ground close up, they notice several aeroplanes have crashed into each other and people are running around. They eventually register that Terenzio was telling the verity, but since the runway is blocked, they cannot land. The aeroplane only has enough energy to fly a bit west to Scotland. Hence, the captain decides to do so and hope for the stylish. He brings Terenzio out of the restroom so the man can tell everyone what's going on. He discloses that he set up out about the sun by wiretapping on his senior's discussion. He does T know why it's passing, or if it'll stop anytime soon. All he knows is that if they want to survive, they will have to fly down from the daylight. Meanwhile, the Arab man who passed out earlier is still on the bottom. He has a hard time breathing and is about to go into cardiac arrest. With his last breaths, he says that he swallowed diamonds. The nanny Laura tries her stylish to save him, but her attempts go in vain. At the same time, they go through an exigency wharf in Scotland, where Matthew stops the aeroplane. seconds down from hitting a wall. They go outdoors and their phones start chiming with announcements from their loved ones. The internet is filled with news about deadly sun. Half of the world has failed and the other half is staying for their death. The field is empty because everyone who had a chance to run down has fled and the others are hiding in dark places, hoping that it will cover them. Still, the news suggests that people are dying indeed inside the cellages. Suddenly, they're approached by 3 RAF soldiers asking for help. They only have 45 twinkles before daylight, so they decide to collect important inventories and fly west. One of the passengers is an aircraft mastermind, Jacob. He wants to go back to his pregnant woman to save her, but for the overall safety of the passengers, he's asked to step back. After collecting inventories and filling the aeroplane's tank, they take off one further time. One of the soldiers is an airman and suggests they fly down from the ambit to avoid the sun catching up to them briskly. Their coming stop is Canada, where they will fuel up the aeroplane again and fix the radio. A while laterally, the internet is fixed and their phones begin to chime. They admit the last dispatches from their loved ones who have formerly failed in Brussels. Also, a man finds in composition saying that the cause of the disaster is the sun's opposition. Another passenger named Horst is a climate specialist and knows what a sun's opposition means. He explains that every 11 times, the sun's glamorous field reverses, but no bone knows why. It has no significant effect on the world, so not important exploration has been done. Still, over the once many decades, the intensity of the reversal was growing weaker. Because of this, Horst thinks the reversal came much more important in the other direction. However, the Earth is being blasted with gamma shafts far and wide the sun falls, which is why people are dying incontinently. If what he's saying is true, they've no way to prove the proposition, because the scientists who published the composition are also presumably all dead. Right. Also, AS finds out a news report saying that the RAF soldiers they picked are actually terrorists from Afghanistan. They were arrested and were being brought back to their country at the field. Outdoors, one of them gets into an argument and pushes the old man who has madness. It causes his death and gains the terrorist the passengers' disapprobation. Sylvie tells Matthew about the news report, and the two decide to abandon the terrorists when they land in Canada. Many twinkles laterally, they land and have 2 hours before daylight. Several victims of the sun lie each around the megacity. The terrorists are asked to look for form radio corridor in the nearest shop. They agree but contend on taking Gabrielle and Jacob with them. The problem is that Jacob knows about the plan, but not Gabrielle. Hence, when they're in the shop and Jacob locks the terrorists in a room, Gabrielle refuses to come with him. Jacob does an desolate time trying to move her. In the end, he makes it to the field while being followed by the terrorists, but Gabrielle is left back in the megacity. The aeroplane takes off without her. The terrorists follow it and are suitable to hit a window with a pellet. Fortunately for the passengers, it only creates a crack, so if they maintain a position altitude, it'll not break. A terminally ill sprat named Dominic is also on the flight. AS tries to sputter with him, but his protective Mama Zara asks the man to go down. Suddenly, they get a radio signal from someone in Hawaii. The discussion is cut short, but they assume that some survivors are staying inside an aquatic cellarage, which is why they're alive. Matthew wants to leave for Hawaii as soon as possible, but Sylvie thinks going there because of an unclear communication would be stupid. Meanwhile, Terenzio is furious that the captain gets to make all the opinions. He protests and everyone comes to an agreement that they will bounce to make a decision from now onwards. Just when effects start to calm down, several admonitions ring at the same time indicating an aircraft malfunction. Upon assaying the problems, Matthew learns that one of the terrorists who was following the aeroplane before has attached himself to the wharf gear. However, they won't be suitable to land if he remains there. Hence, Matthew decides to fly as high as possible, so the temperature and lack of oxygen will take him down. Still, he fails to consider the cracked window. Because of the pressure difference, it breaks, causing chaos inside the aeroplane. Effects fly into the sky as the passengers brace themselves for impact. Matthew snappily brings the aeroplane to a lower altitude, and Jacob uses a rustic board to close the window for some time. Everyone calms down, but Dominic has trouble breathing because his respiratory tube flew down. AS thinks of a plan and uses the oxygen pipe to make a respiratory tube. Zara is thankful and shamed that she was mean to AS before. The captain tells everyone that Hawaii is no longer an option, because they will no way reach there on time at this altitude. The most doable option would be to land in Adu, an Alaskan islet. Also, the turbulence was suitable to get relief of the hanging terrorist. AS, Jacob, and Terenzio go to the undercarriage and make a hole on the aeroplane. bottom to get a view of him. Terenzio uses his gun to point into the dark, but the Felonious pulls it and nearly kills him. Luckily, Ayaz comes to his deliverance and shoots the terrorist dead. He becomes their idol for a many twinkles before the passengers find out that he was the reason the Arab passenger failed. They buried his body back in Canada, where a Joe saw Ayaz cut his stomach open. Ayaz confesses he's a con artist who was smuggling diamonds from Brussels to Moscow. The diamonds were inside the Arab man's body with his concurrence, but he failed because he didn't follow the scarifying instructions. On hearing the concession, some passengers kick that Ayaz should be abandoned like the terrorists, but overall vote falls in Ayaz's favor. As a result, he's shackled in the avionics bay. In the ensuing scene, they land in Alaska and refill the tank again before taking off. When airborne, the climatologist Horst discovers commodity strange. The fruits they picked up in Canada taste like they've no flavor. He thinks it's because the gamma shafts are so violent that they are revising the infinitesimal structure of the food. The most concerning part is that it decreases the nutritive value of the food. However, they will starve to death in many weeks if this goes on. Matthew acknowledges the peril, but claims that their primary concern should be running down from the sun. He has started to lose control of himself in the once many hours. Sylvie asks him to take a rest, but he yells at her, which is unlike his normal tone. The passengers decide to force him into resting and bring him outside the cockpit. Although irked, Matthew promises to sleep for the coming many hours. A while laterally, they pick another signal on the radio and hear two parties talking, but the group only hears them say Stara 17. They soon figure out that the person talking on the phone is a cosmonaut who's in space. They're shocked that someone like that's alive, but this also means he's talking to the control room, which is on the Earth. With renewed stopgap for survival, they decide to go to NATO headquarters in Brussels, where it all started. At this rate, they will have 4 hours after they land in Brussels until the sun comes out. Hence, they might find some information about the secret cellarage in the headquarters with Terenzio's help. Outdoors, Laura finds Matthew unconscious in the restroom. It turns out that the injury on his wing has been infected and caused blood poisoning. This is why he'd been acting the way he did before. To break the problem, they've to reattach the infected Apkins. Laura says she can do the operation in Brussels if they manage to reach a sanitarium. Still, without Matthew, Sylvie cannot land the aeroplane on her own. The passengers supplicate her since she's the closest to a airman but she knows that she can only land a copter. Horst makes her understand that if she does take action, everyone is going to die. Following that, Sylvie is made to watch many vids on how to land an aeroplane. Still, when she has to actually do the work, she panics. An aggressive turbulence successes and everyone braces themselves for the worst. In the end, they go through a shaky wharf, but other than that, both the aeroplane and the passengers are safe. Everyone blasts for Sylvie and enjoys the moment of achievement amidst the disaster. Not wasting important time, they divide into 3 groups to do different tasks. 2 men stay at the field to refill the energy. Zara, Laura, and her group bring Matthew to the nearest sanitarium, while Terenzio, Ayaz, and a man named Rick go to the NATO headquarters. At the sanitarium, they find multitudinous dead bodies blocking hallways. By the aesthetics of it, people were informed about the deaths before daylight and were trying to save their lives. Laura orders everyone to ignore the chaos and concentrate on saving Matthew. At the same time, Zara fills her bags with drugs for her son and for the others. Meanwhile, at NATO headquarters, Terenzio shows them the conference room where he first heard about the disaster. They cannot go through all the papers with the time they have left, so Rick decides to see if the surveillance footage has commodity. When he's down, Terenzio makes fun of Ayaz's Turkish descent, and the two get into a fight. He accidentally hits Ayaz, causing him to fall unconscious and bleed heavily. Nearly differently, Rick finds a recording of the officers talking about a cellarage under a levee in Bulgaria. The place's name is Stara 17, the same thing they heard on the radio many hours ago. Before he can go back to the guys, Terenzio comes to him and tells him that Ayaz has formerly left. Rick sees Ayaz's body lying in a pool of blood on the screen, but is too spooked to speak. Half an hour before the daylight, everyone boards the aeroplane. Matthew isn't in his stylish state, but feels better after the surgery. Terenzio tells everyone that Ayaz drove down before them, but they can no longer stay for him to return. With heavy hearts, they start the machines when suddenly, a auto stops in front of the aeroplane, and Ayaz comes out. In the ensuing scene, Terenzio is being shackled in the avionics bay. Sylvie tells everyone that if the Bulgaria plan does work, they won't have enough energy or time to reach another destination. When they touch down, everyone must be ready because they will only have 20 twinkles to drive to the position of the cellarage. Ayaz is in the restroom when he gets a seizure. It lasts only for a many seconds, and he thinks it's because he has lost too important blood. Still, he refrains from telling the others. When he comes outdoors, he's asked what he wants to do with Terenzio. Not wanting to doom him to murder, he allows the Joe to come with them to the cellarage. A while laterally, they land at a Bulgarian field and separate into two groups, riding two different vehicles. Sylvie drives the first auto and leads the way while Ayaz drives the alternate bone. On the way, he gets the seizure again, causing them to crash. The first auto has formerly driven far down, and the group has no way to keep up in the short time. At an crossroad, Sylvie takes the right turn and reaches a half-open gate. A passenger tries touching it and is transferred flying because of the electricity. Also, it turns out that they've to continue pressing a button for the gate to stay open. To redeem himself, Terenzio offers to stay for the others, while Sylvie and the group go outside. Before leaving, Sylvie bind him to the stage, so he won't betray them. It also confirms that he will only be free when the other group arrives. Still, Ayaz and the group take a left turn at the crossroad and reach an analogous gate from the other side of the levee. They use their clothes to climb up and beyond the entrance. In the end, they all reach the entrance to the cellarage, indeed though they took different exits. The passengers are eventually entered by military men who drink them outside and affirm that they're safe then. Terenzio is left alone outdoors, asking God for remission. As the sun rises, he stands facing it and asks it to do it stylish. In the end, he's also killed. Series name is Into the Night, year 2015. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to watch more cine summaries like this, turn on notifications and press the like button to support us.